Story 1. When I was in junior high, we had a large hurricane, Hurricane Gloria, which hit our town, and due to electricity being out, trees on the roads, flooding, etc., we were off from school for 2 weeks. My vacation was 2 weeks plus a day, since I was sent home, not expelled, for wearing a homemade shirt that said, "I was blown by Gloria" on my first day back. Story 2. In 5th grade, there was a classmate of mine, and she was not somebody who bowed to peer pressure. She started intentionally wearing obvious mismatched socks as a sign of her individuality. She was very quiet and did not have many friends. Our teacher noticed the mismatched socks, and after a week told the girl to wear matching socks. Keep in mind, I am 61 years old, and this was a very rural public school back in the day. Well, the next week, the girl again was wearing mismatched socks, and the teacher sent her to the principal's office. The principal told the girl to write 500 times, "I will not wear mismatched socks," and sent a note home to the parents. The next day, the girl again wore mismatched socks, and the pages she was told to write said, "I will wear mismatched socks." The principal was not amused, and suspended her for a week. Now, I didn't know the girl very well, but I sure liked her spirit. I organized a protest of the students to support her. The next morning, there were 92 of us standing in the schoolyard, and despite all the threats, we refused to enter the school until the independent girl was allowed in and able to wear mismatched socks. Parents of students were called to come to the school and pick us up because we were all suspended as well. When parents found out what all the ruckus was about, they were very angry with the teacher and the principal. Our school did not even have a dress code. At the end of the day, the principal caved and gave in to our demands. By junior high, her family moved, and I lost track of her. But that day we stood up for her, changed her, and she became more outgoing and made new friends. Story 3. Stupid boy mucking around in art class. The teacher has had enough of it and sends him to sit in the art cabinet on his own for 10 minutes. In most Australian schools, the art cabinet is a small walk-in cupboard with a sliding door. After 2 minutes, the teacher feels mean for sending him in there and goes in to check on him. He's got his pants down around his ankles and is having a wank. Continues to do it as the teacher is screaming and the whole class can see him through the now open sliding door. He is now well known around the area as the Phantom Pooler. This boy is not mentally handicapped in any way, just a full-on idiot. His dad has been friends with my dad for a long time, and naturally, he is one of those boys who has developed a long-time crush on me. We are now 22, and he still manages to find me whenever I return to my hometown, with his friends egging him on. Story 4. When I was in high school, I think my sophomore year, there was a senior who was expelled and not allowed to attend graduation because of a tiny pocket knife keychain in his car. It was one of those little freebie ones. At the time, I believe they came with a particular multi-pack of film, about 1.5 inches long, with a key ring, and containing only a single blade and a nail file, I think. It was barely usable as a letter opener. The guy had one, its ring connected to a bunch of other random keychains, in a pile on the dashboard of his car. The dean happened to be walking through the parking lot and saw it, figured out whose car it was, and he was expelled for having a knife at school. Same year, earlier on, someone was expelled for a short piece of scrap copper pipe found in his locker, a leftover from some kludge repair he'd done to his car. It was considered to be a drug paraphernalia. Zero tolerance is horribly stupid. Meanwhile, in my small Montana hometown, the school handbook had a special section detailing the hunting season and where in the parking lot it was appropriate for kids to park so their hunting rifles and bows could be left in their vehicles and an eye could be kept on them. For all those wondering, I'm from a little town along the interstate north of Billings called Forsyth. I guarantee the only reason anyone knows of its existence is because it has a gas station. Story 5. When I was 14 or 15, we had an art project where we had to pick basically any recognizable person, celebrity, sports player, etc., to paint in a certain style. One of my good friends decided to pick Eminem. So when we were in the computer room during lunchtime, he was Google image searching for a good pick. He stumbled across a picture of 2 people doing it doggy style, except Eminem's face had been photoshopped onto the guy's body and Britney Spears onto the female's. This was hilarious to us teenage boys. So as a joke, my friend pressed Ctrl-P, pretending he was going to print it, and changed the copies to 500. I leaned over and pressed enter. We got out of there quickly when we realized they had started printing and we couldn't stop it. At the end of lunch, a teacher roared my name from the other end of the corridor, and I obviously immediately knew why. Got taken to the waiting room by the headmaster's office, and my friend, who had been using that computer, was already sitting there. Went into the headmaster's office, and we were both trying to stifle laughs as we saw the huge pile of paper on his desk. My friend explained fully why he was looking for the pictures, and that he had genuinely stumbled upon it by accident. The headmaster wouldn't believe him, as my friend had used someone else's account to use the internet, due to his not working, IT continually doing nothing to fix it, and someone figuring out that with some people's usernames, you could put the password as password and it would still let you in. This meant our headmaster thought he had done it deliberately and was trying to get the other kid in trouble. Best part was, our posh English headmaster said, "Who is M and M?" And I leaned forward and pointed to the guy blowing Brittany from behind and said, "He is." My friend burst out laughing, and we were both given 3-day suspensions. My parents weren't impressed, but it was worth it. I've tried searching for this picture since, but have never had any luck. If any of you can help a brother out, I will love you forever. Story 6. I went to a Protestant school in Australia. My very good friend had just died from bone cancer. My girlfriend was comforting me and hugging me as I was crying my eyes out. A teacher came past and told her to move away as there was a no-touching rule. My girlfriend nicely and calmly explained the situation to the teacher, who responded by explaining that she was not concerned by this. I subsequently told her to get effed. I was marched up to the principal's office in front of all my mates, a crying, blithering mess, where I was told I would be taking a week off of school due to suspension. The reason I was at school was because he had been in the hospital for over a month, and I was only made aware of his passing on the bus trip. This all occurred before the school rang for first period. Story 7. In 8th grade, an older cousin taught me how to play craps. Like an idiot, I started running a casino-like thing at lunch. Anyways, I got caught with a massive bag of money and was suspended. My school had a policy that if you were suspended and got in trouble again, you would be expelled. About a month later, I jumped in a puddle and was sent to the principal. They wanted to expel me, but my parents argued it would ruin my future, as I had a perfect academic record. Ended up narrowly escaping expulsion for jumping in a puddle. Story 8. My friend was suspended because he was being pantsed continuously one day. After the 4th or 5th time, everyone realized he was just pulling down his own shorts quickly in the hall between classes. Story 9. We had 2 kids a few years ago who were caught doing it on school grounds. Nothing really that abnormal, except that they did it on the school oval in the early hours of the morning and were supposedly caught by the school priest. The priest in question lives on the school grounds and likes to go on walks in the early morning. Can you imagine the conversation that ensued? Story 10. This kid in 8th grade, I was a freshman in high school but we all knew him from middle school, was on one of those free webcam sites chatting with girls in class. The teacher was newish, probably in her 2nd year, and she was probably 25 years old. When she saw his computer screen, she apparently broke down in tears. Kid got expelled quickly. Story 11. When I was 17, I had to write a paper about what I would do if it was my last 24 hours on Earth. Being a little jackal, I do things like blow stuff up and rob liquor stores. Well, my teacher thought I was serious and turned the paper in to the principal, who turned it into the police. I got charged with a felony for threats of terrorism and expelled for 6 months. Not really embarrassing, I guess, but funny nevertheless. Story 12. I haven't been in school for nearly a decade, but I almost got suspended for using an inhaler for an asthma attack. I had a sudden attack and started to collapse, reached for my inhaler and found it wasn't in my pocket. A friend of mine handed me his, exact same medication, and we knew this for a fact. And it probably saved my life, or at least saved me a trip to the ER. Then I got called into the office and reprimanded. No one bothered to check on the state of my well-being, and so I demanded a call to my mother, who's a nurse. Her response was, "Yeah, she's supposed to have an inhaler. She used so-and-so's?" Well, then she knew it was the same medication. They still didn't like that, and then forbade me from carrying around my inhaler in the future, saying I'd have to come to the nurse's office to use it. Keep in mind that I was an older teenager at the time, not a child incapable of handling dosages, etc. I dutifully ignored that and carried my inhaler with me, because I'm dumb. Story 13. I didn't get expelled, but I did have some very embarrassing accusations thrown at me by a teacher, which got me in a lot of trouble at home and at school. One day, I came home from school, 8th grade I think, and my bedroom had been turned inside out, and all of my video games had been opened up with the discs all over my desk. I asked my mom what the hell happened, and she started yelling at me about how games like Grand Theft Auto were messing me up. I did not own a copy of GTA. I mostly played JRPGs at the time. Apparently, one of my teachers had called up and said I was drawing pictures of people being during class. Where this came from, I have no idea. I even showed my parents and the teacher all of my notebooks to prove that I had done no such thing. Yes, I doodled a lot in class, but nothing that could be interpreted as sexual in any way. I think I went back through my notes and discovered I was drawing Frog from Chrono Trigger the day this accusation was made. The teacher implied that video games were turning me into a rapist, hence the thorough search of my bedroom by my parents. I guess I'm just really bad at drawing. Story 14. When I was 15, I was a high school stoner. One day it was -23 without the wind chill, and me and this other guy decided to smoke our water bottle bong in the bathroom to keep from having to go way out back. We go into the sketchiest bathroom in the furthest corner of the school and into the handicap stall. We had all the smoking stuff out. I had the water bottle and he had the stem and bowl. We each had our own weed. As we start putting it together, the principal knocks on the stall door and says, "Come out, boys, I know you're in there." So I crush the water bottle and he hides his paraphernalia. I put my weed in between my dick and my sack, and he put his up his sleeve. In the office, we were put in separate rooms. He was interrogated first. While that was happening, I hid my weed in the bottom of a filing cabinet. During his talk with the authorities, his weed was found. They brought the school's cop in and searched my pockets but found nothing. Catholic school, 2003. I was suspended for being in a bathroom stall with another boy. He was expelled for the same offense, but because it was a recurring thing for him. They also sent him to rehab for weed. Story 15. In cooking class, a girl was flipping a knife around for God knows why and lost her grip. Ended up stabbing herself smack dab in the nether regions. She is suspended for some violation of some safety rule or something, but damn, it must have sucked. Story 16. My brother's friend prank called their teacher while my bro was at his house. The kid ended up getting found out. My brother went in and told them he was there. They would never have known either without him admitting it. As a reward for his honesty, he was suspended for 6 days and had to clean the school. Story 17. A guy at my school got expelled and arrested for photocopying dollar bills onto regular paper and trying to use them in the cafeteria. They also found a garbage bag full of them in a dumpster by his house. Story 18. Our engineering curriculum was designed in such a way that for the first year, you were in a large group for a bunch of classes together, meaning you'd have Calc 1, Physics, Engineering 101, etc., all with the same group of students. It promoted teamwork or something. Anyways, one of our classes was over 2 hours long, so we got a break halfway through. Usually, me and my 2 friends would hit up the snack cart and shoot the crap in the hall until we had to go back. Never thought much of it. One day, we're in that same class, and 4 university police officers burst into our class and go, "You 3, with us, now." Slightly embarrassing, especially since we had no idea what was going on. We followed them, and they started berating and questioning us about why we were making fun of a fellow professor for being gay. If we knew this was a hate crime, if we knew we could get expelled for it. So we're crapping our pants. We don't even know what they're talking about. The professor in question comes out, confirms it was definitely the 3 of us, and now we have to meet with the real police later in the day as a formal complaint is being charged. Before I continue, let me state that we absolutely weren't making fun of this guy. Truth be told, we never paid any attention to him, and certainly didn't know that he was gay and weren't making fun of him for being gay. Me and one of my friends were old friends from elementary school, while the third was a new friend. I asked my friends if they wanted to talk to the guy privately, and only my old friend wanted to. We went to his office and asked to speak with him. We explained the situation, saying that if we had inadvertently said something about homos, it was merely an accident and not directed at him. We told him we were truly sorry and meant no ill will. We then asked if we could shake his hand and settle this. He agreed, but he did not agree to cut the third friend loose. He said it was really him that was saying the stuff anyways, and we were just a part of it. We could tell he didn't believe us, but he told the police to not involve us and only charged the third. The third friend ended up having to take a hate crime class for the entire semester, meet with mediators the entire semester, and was put on academic probation. Story 19. Junior year, I picked up a dirty cigarette habit. Kids smoked everywhere on school grounds, the end of the science hall outside, hopping out the giant windows in video class and smoking in a corner, and in the locker rooms. Administrators tried like hell to catch the kids, but they rarely ever did. Our halls, science wing, art wing, etc. connected outside via paths around the school perimeter, so it was a circular race when an adult was coming. At any rate, our lunches were broken up into A, B, and C lunches, with our fourth hour scheduled accordingly. I was B. After the first half of algebra, I went to lunch with a friend named Jenny. Yes, her real name. We sneak off to go have a smoke in the upstairs locker room in the gym. We go back into the unused dark showers, which are maze-like, to the turnhole air vent we blow our smoke out of. After we're done, we take our still-lit butts and rinse them under the faucet, wrap them in paper towels, and toss them in the trash. After I had finished my process, Jenny started, but someone was quickly coming up the stairs. She rinsed her butt and tossed it in the trash. We booked it down the back staircase outside around the video hall to the sign stores and slipped in. Perfumed up and washed hands, we went back to class. 10 minutes later, the entire school is evacuated. The fire department arrives, and we watch them hurry up the back stairs to the locker room. Uh-oh. As you can guess, her cigarette didn't hit the water in our hurry to retreat. It caught the trash can on fire, the paper towel dispenser, the wood trim, and then spread to the wooden stalls in the toilets. We were called by the parking attendant, saying she saw us cut across the parking lot where the locker room door had been and run toward the video hall. She did not see us come out. All evidence they had was circumstantial. As everyone was filing inside, a police officer quickly grabbed my arms from behind me and cuffed me, in front of all my friends and many others. I walked to the principal's office. He then accused me of smoking. I emptied my pockets. I had no smokes, no lighter, no matches, etc. I asked what it was about. He insisted I already knew. Obviously I did, but I'm not buckling. I knew what kind of trouble I'd be in for having the fire department come, no matter how big or small the fire, so deny, deny, deny. When he said the sentence, "You are being expelled for arson," he sat back and stared at me, eyes glazed and completely deadpan, gauged my reaction. I was speechless. What? Me? I may have been a smoker, I skipped classes several times, but had never been in serious trouble before. I had good grades. It took me about 2 minutes to process everything, kind of asking trailing off questions and gaping at him like a fish on land. There was a hearing for both of us in front of the school board. Even though they found cigarettes and a Zippo on Jenny, the bitch threw me under the bus when she went after me and confessed, but she took it a step further. Not only did I deny we were both in there, but she put me there and said I lit the paper towel dispenser on fire. It made a big fuss locally, and no school would take me in to finish a year and 3 months of high school. I applied at an alternative high school to have the assistant principal tell me they don't educate pyros. 6 schools in total denied me, even adult high schools. I was finally accepted 8 months later and graduated with high honors. I lost many friends during it all. A few years ago, several classmates invited me to the graduating class page of my school. Even though I finished my last year somewhere else, I had known all of these people since kindergarten. The admin of the page removed me and sent an email about how I wasn't an alumni and never would be. She tried to friend me on Facebook after she got out of jail for something unrelated. The request has been sitting there for over a year. F Jenny.
Story 1. When I was in high school, a kid was masturbating in one of the stalls in the bathroom. Then another kid went in the bathroom and recorded him from the next stall over. Video went around, and the kid that recorded it got in legal trouble because the kid masturbating was a minor. Story 2. The conversation turned to farts amongst the 7th grade girls. The new girl, short and squat, and as of yet silent, shook her head and stated, "I ain't never pooed in my whole life." It echoes in my head regularly to this day. I also say it whenever I'm accused of farting because it is hilarious. Story 3. In 8th grade, I was eating lunch across from this very strange kid. I remember him picking up his milk with both hands and squeezing it as hard as he could. Then it popped and got all over him, and his reaction was a disappointed look on his face, followed by a, "Oh man!" Story 4. One time at band camp, yeah I know, a kid started having an asthma attack, and as the counselors were helping him, he started shouting, "This wasn't supposed to happen until Thursday!" I still think about that very frequently. As a person with asthma, he was either going to force an attack on Thursday, or after a while. You could kinda tell after a few days in advance if you might have one. Story 5. He got caught stealing from the teacher's assortment of goodies that she gave away once a week to students. She chose students randomly based on a raffle system where you had more tickets if you were behaved. After a huge mess of him crying and trying to say it wasn't him, he asked to be excused to the bathroom, where he was gone for a solid 30 minutes. The teacher got concerned, and upon checking the bathroom sign-out sheet, we discovered he wrote in the sign-in time, "Never coming back." So one of us went to check the bathroom, and he wasn't there. The teacher tells the principal what happened, and the police is called in. Helicopter was flying by, and a couple of cars. They eventually found him walking home. Just remembered another gem. In 5th grade, the one weird kid brought in a shoebox for no apparent reason. He went around claiming it was a uranium bomb. Although we knew that it was pure BS, the teacher sent him to the principal's office, and the dude got in major trouble for a bomb threat. Imagine being this kid, trying to go home after being caught stealing, then having effing police helicopters on the search for you. Story 6. 8th grade said, teacher brought in a rubber dildo, new in packaging, to pass around the class. Dildo gets to class clown kid. He wobbles the dildo back and forth, then sniffs it and asks the teacher why it smells fishy. Needless to say, never seen a kid run out of class so quick. Story 7. Used an Apple remote, 2009 times, to continually play the "Sucking on My Titties" song on our history teacher's computer. She would walk away and the beat would start. She would run to the computer and he would pause it. She would walk away and he would hit play. Went on for like 20 minutes until she unplugged the computer. Story 8. Brought a crossbow in and shot another student with it because the kid gave the police a statement about him stalking girls. He was very effed up. Story 9. In high school, there was this kid who wouldn't have a conversation with anyone. Spent 4 years with a dude in the same class, and never have I seen him say more than, "Okay, sure, bye." Even though everyone tried talking to him to cheer him up. We thought something was wrong, or he was just shy. He would just sit on his desk all day and look right in front of him, unless disturbed, until one day we had a big school fight. Those happen a lot in my country. No one expected him to show up since he wasn't friendly with any of us, but dude showed up and proceeded to beat up 5 to 6 guys on his own, like an effing wrecking ball in a construction site. Shiz looked like one of those cheesy martial arts movies. After the fight, he came back, grabbed his stuff, said bye like it was nothing, and just effed off. I still suspect to this day he was a robot. Nah, not a robot, just the main character. He had that sweet, sweet plot armor protecting him. Story 10. A science teacher in my school was cool, if a little weird. Not in a pedophile type way. His room was always open for the kids to hang out in. He spent a lot of his own time, and I suspect money, managing an animal club, which the kids were responsible for looking after. We had hundreds of different animals, from hissing cockroaches to snakes to a 3-foot iguana, mice to chipmunks to chinchillas. He also liked to tell cool stories about his own life, such as the pigs that he kept, Rasher and Bacon, his caving experiences, sailing experiences, etc. He would spend his own time helping students that were struggling and give them extra tutoring if warranted. However, he never tolerated laziness or attitudes and would call out students that couldn't be bothered, which is where this kid comes in. This kid made a comic book depicting the science teacher raping the students, male and female, while saying his little catchphrases. It was found and brought to said science teacher's attention. A meeting happened with the senior management of the school where they brought the kid's mom, and the teacher in. This 6-foot massive teacher with a huge ginger beard cried and said he had never experienced anything like it in his life before now. Even the rest of us hated this kid for what happened, and at that age, we were really immature. Story 11. In middle school, there was this girl whose long hair kept spilling onto my desk. I asked her to move her seat, or her hair, and she turned around and effing hissed at me. Story 12. Couple weird goth kids hid behind the bleachers during gym class and stuck chili flakes in their holes. Not sure what kind of pain for pleasure they were going for, but they both had to leave school early because of it. Story 13. Saved his piss for a whole week or month, I forgot, then sprayed it all over the handrails at school. Eventually, he was ratted out by someone, and the VP came to get him in my homeroom class and confronted him and our teacher about his accusations. He said it was just apple juice, and he was just joking about it, and right when the teacher went to sniff and take a sip from the bottle, he yells, all right, it's piss." Story 14. Stole around a dozen textbooks, brought them into the boys' washroom, and burned them, setting the whole washroom on fire. Story 15. A 10th grade girl got arrested coming out of school one day when I was a senior. Nobody really knew why. Then a few weeks later, it turns out she was a pimp and was pimping out other high school girls to adult men. Story 16. In the first grade, a kid next to me was chewing on a pen, and it ended up exploding in his mouth. Raised his hand to go to the bathroom. When the teacher called on him, he went to open his mouth to ask to go to the bathroom, and the ink just started leaking out. Story 17. Kid was caught ferociously violating himself in the bathroom in 6th grade, and gained the nickname Spanky until high school graduation. He did a lot of strange things, but the one I'll never forget is he stuck his pinky in a pencil sharpener that year and turned the crank as hard as he could. Story 18. Went around showing other students pictures from a murder, then laughing while showing them, then hung a Freddy Krueger mask on his locker with a note complaining about not getting attention. Story 19. Kid in 1st grade with me. We had the 6th graders come and read harder level books with us. Reading buddies, as they were called. We had a kid named Mateo, who was inspired by his reading buddy. His buddy dared him to shove a rock up his nose. Mateo did, then proceeded to tell the teacher and head to the nurse. Nurse just got it stuck farther and had to be sent home. No idea what happened after, if he had the doctor get it or sneezed it out. Same kid also wore a pumpkin costume, fell over and couldn't get up. Looked like a scene in the Christmas Story where Ralphie's brother falls in the snow with all his coats on. Story 20. The dude would constantly run his arms and legs, all fours, through the hallways or any random time. Oddest thing I'd ever seen. Story 21. I went to Catholic school, and during Mass, this girl sitting next to me didn't fully get up, but just sort of squatted and started peeing in the pew next to me. Girls wore skirts as part of their uniform. She left the school shortly after. Also had a kid who would get a nice big ball of spit in his mouth, then let it drop out of his mouth into his shirt pocket. He said he was saving it for later. Catholic school is weird, folks. I remember a girl in 2007 who was banged by the dad of one of her peers. Yes, it was a Catholic school too. Turns out he divorced his wife back then, and 10 years later, he and my classmate found each other again. They're about to get married. This year. Story 22. First day of high school. Kid found a pair of badly soiled boxer shorts in an outdoor bin that had clearly been there all summer. I'm talking caked in a 1/4 inch layer of dried shiz. Proceeded to put them on his head and start chasing groups of people around the playground. Not the best first impression to make when starting a new school. The poor guy never really pulled himself out of the social rut he dived headfirst into that day. Story 23. Unzipped his pants with his teeth in the cafeteria, proving he could suck himself off. It was disturbing. He is now on the sex offender list and looks 10 times as creepy as he did back then. Story 24. In my first year of university, there was a kid who wore a dinosaur head covering or hat that had a cape attached to it and would walk around campus just staring at people. My friend asked him one day what his name was, and he replied with King Reptar. Weird kid. Haven't seen him since. Also, one day during Frosh Week, there was a movie being played on my university's equivalent of the Quad. He showed up and would squat by people while just looking at them. There was also a kid who would ride a unicycle around campus. Story 25. A kid I knew took a poo in his hands and painted the walls in the boys' bathroom. Did not return next day. Next I heard him, he messaged me on Facebook. Hey man, what's up? You pooping the walls, man, that's what's up. Story 26. There was a kid who carried knives around in his backpack and was accused of raping a girl in his car at a park that isn't too far away from where I live. He was charged and got out on bail, but was expelled. He got a job at a store also near my neighborhood and was caught for retail theft. Apparently his mom would come in and he would skip scanning some stuff. He had just moved to our school that year and every girl had a crush on him until this happened. Story 27. What seemed to be his mother used to come in and spoon feed him in the middle of the yard, while all the other kids played, but many watched. Some were assholes and said stuff. He was a completely able-bodied kid of about 9 to 10 years of age. You could see it in his eyes that it was killing him, and that the whole thing was about her. Christ, I haven't thought about that in years. Looking back as an adult, I feel disgusted. Story 28. There was this kid at my school who would come into the boys' washroom and literally take a shiz in the urinal. One time I walked in on the kid squatting over the urinal, and he immediately got up, washed his hands, and said, "Dude, look, someone shiz in that urinal." He then walked out. I feel so bad for the janitor. Story 29. A girl I went to high school with who seemed sweet, quiet, and friendly. She was perfectly normal. She turned out to be a huge mess. One day, a few years later, she beat her 5-year-old stepdaughter to death for not cleaning her room. Story 30. Girl would put a piece of bread in her mouth and proceed to roll the wet, soggy bread mass into a ball. She would then take the ball out and look at it, then put it back in her mouth, over and over again. Story 31. First day of first grade, a kid shoved a pencil through his own hand, and then just calmly told the teacher and got escorted out of the room. He never came back. Story 32. That kid in our German class was arguing with the teacher about how he doesn't want to study anymore. Didn't hear the whole conversation, but one brilliant quote I heard loosely translates to, "I am God. I can delete you." We were 14 at the time. Story 33. This kid used to drink cups of ranch dressing at lunch. And nothing else. He would have 15 to 20 of those little ketchup cups loaded on his tray, and he'd start slurping it down. Pretty sure he had some kind of mental disability, so I don't want to rag on him too hard, but just watching him do that every day turned me off of ranch for a few years. Alternative theory: he was hungry and his parents wouldn't give him money for lunch, so he went with the most caloric item on the condiments table. Story 34. This guy would just combine all his food at lunch, including the drink, into a weird soup and eat it like that, no matter what we were eating. Story 35. In my high school's Mac lab, the admin computer had a feature to let all the other iMacs be taken control of at the same time to mirror whatever the admin computer displayed. This was often used to show instructions more easily for in-class computer assignments. The teacher forgot to lock the admin computer during a washroom break, so one kid seized the opportunity to access the mode I mentioned just now and rickroll the whole lab, using one of those sites that makes the browser jump all over the screen, starting it right before the teacher came back. The teacher wasn't very savvy with computers, so she got very agitated and had to call the IT guy for help. In elementary school, I used to be very afraid of using the school washroom for pooping, and one time I shizzed my shorts in class because I couldn't hold it in any longer. Since I was wearing shorts, the shiz ran down my legs and onto the floor. Story 36. Man, so this kid was a strange one. Maybe something was up with him, but I don't know. He really liked Slipknot, anyway. One day he swore he was a Wiccan. We used to have a Smash Bros tournament and invite kids over to play at a friend's house, and he showed up saying he was able to change his eye color. He closed his eyes to concentrate and he opened them saying they changed. They didn't. He said they became a lighter shade. He tried to show me how to create fireballs and had this book of different wolf pictures and tried to determine what my wolf form was. He wasn't a bad kid, just weird, so we dealt with it until the incident. He was really into the Wiccan stuff, so 2 of my friends decided to F with him. I guess you could say they were metalheads, and they had that look. Anyway, they told me they went up to him one day and revealed themselves as demons. One of them, let's call him Vince, said he reached out to him from down the hallway and said, "Your soul is mine," and made gestures like he pulled his soul out of his body and buried into the floor. So the kid freaks the F out and begs for his soul back, and my friends leave thinking the dumb prank was over. Later that day, I get a knock on my door, and it's the kid. He has a pair of those sharp metal scissors in his hands, and he looks frantic. He is aggressive and tells me that he needs to find Vince. He needs to kill Vince and get his soul back. I'm pretty shocked, so I tell him that I don't know where Vince is, and the kid is reluctant to believe me because he has seen me with them. He asks me if I knew they were demons, and I tell him I didn't know. Anyway, I pretty much shut the door on him and he leaves hysterical. Supposedly, he was running around trying to find Vince to murder him and retrieve his soul, but this kid was a pretty big kid, so someone saw him running around in the streets with scissors. We don't know what happened to him. Story 37. He walked around in black, extra wide Jinko bondage pants with a ripped up fishnet shirt and a black wife beater, cat ears, and a hot pink cat collar that his girlfriend attached a leash to and led him around with in the hallway. He also had black emo hair and wore lots of eyeliner. That dude was living his life with his pet play submissive fantasy. Of course everyone teased the crap out of him for it, but he gave 0 Fs. You do you, emo cat boy. Story 38. In high school, this kid was obsessed with the band Kiss. He would somehow suck on his gums or something and make his mouth bleed, so he could spit out blood and stick his tongue out. Not really sure what happened to that kid and his talent. Story 39. We had one kid who edited the slides to a song we had to sing during our weekly school assembly. The song was Winter Wonderland, and he edited the last line in the chorus to say, "Walking in a winter effing land." They cut the music as soon as they saw that slide containing that lyric. It was not really that funny, I'd say, but I have to give the guy credit for having the balls to do that. Story 40. Someone in my high school changed a person's last name to bitch, and they didn't notice until after it was published and yearbooks were distributed. They did a recall and taped her correct last name over it in every yearbook. The girl was a champ though. She even changed her last name on Facebook to bitch. Story 41. This kid was the troublemaker voted most likely to end up in prison. He tried to fight teachers, bullied people at random, and generally both give and got a hard time. It was my school's first ever computing class, brand new computer lab and all. How this kid, who I'm almost certain was failing, got into the class, I don't know. He sat next to me. I didn't care. School bullies were low on my list of things to care about. He was quiet. He took notes. He tried, and I watched him get more and more frustrated because the teacher never responded when he tried to ask questions, never tried to elaborate for him once everyone else understood. A few weeks in, I saw him trying to read my notes during programming practice. I looked at his screen and saw what he'd done wrong. I slid my notes across, silently tapped the part he needed, and went back to my work. It took me a long time to realize that he was quite smart, but had some kind of learning disability. And for that entire year, if he had questions, he asked me. I have the ability to explain a single concept 6 different ways, and would quietly do so until he got it. We never spoke a word to each other outside of that classroom, and I have no idea where he is now, but the teacher announced on our final day that the whole class had passed.